Yeah.
All right, we want to welcome everyone back, and there will be some more trickling in that just came in. I want to welcome our afternoon speaker, Sue Gossett. She's going to be sharing some stories with us. I don't know if you all know, but she spent years going to various film festivals and getting to know a lot of the actors and everything and talking to them, and they wrote letters back and forth, I think, and she saved a lot of those. And so she'll be talking about that today. She's been a member of the museum for a long time and supporter, so we're really happy she could do this. And so without further ado, I'll give it to her.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Hope everyone's nice and full for lunch. Before I get started, we had an incident happen with a family member. Kenny Tate passed away. I don't know if anyone knew Betty and Ken, but I just wanted to express our condolences and sympathy to the family. I've never given a eulogy before, so you'll have to bear with me. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is a little snippet of my first and only time I met Terry. It was in October of 1978, and I had written my book and sent him a copy of it. And I got to meet him at the Sportsman's Club. It was his favorite restaurant in Studio City. And my brother, Terry, Mary Ann, and myself all had lunch together. And while we were having lunch, he told me a little story about how Audie and Terry were flying in an airplane. And Audie says to Terry, he said, "Do you want to fly over the lines or under the lines? You know, where they cross the road?" I think Terry would like to go over the lines. I don't know how that ended up, but that was a cute little story he told me. And then Terry and I went out to have our pictures taken, and the server thought we were leaving without paying the check, so my brother wound up paying the check, which I reimbursed him for, but I thought he was good. But what I would like to do is, Larry Ann had sent me some information on Terry that I did not know. So these are her words, and so she gave me the information on this. And I did not know him after our meeting, and she filled me in on some of the interesting and funny stories about him. And I hope this serves as a fine eulogy for Terry, and that he would approve. Terry really was all about animals. All of his life, the Murphy house had pets. Of course, dogs, but also Donna the chimp and horses. Every dog and cat he had as an adult, he rescued. He'd find a stray and take it home. He was so in love with his pets that when his landlord caught him with more dogs than he was allowed, he moved rather than give them up. He and his first wife, Susan, volunteered at the Big Cat Sanctuary, where they cleaned out pens and fed the animals. He frequently said that one of the most memorable things in his life was being a midwife to a Scotty dog that belonged to close friends. After he and Susan divorced, Terry became very depressed. He told me the main thing that prevented him from committing suicide was his 2 dogs and 1 cat that he loved and depended on him. I think our common love of animals was what brought Terry, Porter, Russell, their son, and us together as personal friends. A couple of days before he came up to stay with us in 2016, one of our cows died calving. That left us with a baby heifer that had to be bottle fed 3 times a day. It was winter, so we put her in the horse trailer with a heat lamp in front of our house. As soon as Terry saw her, he fell in love. He did all the feeding and spent a lot of time with Karina, he named her. He'd take Karina for walks, and she'd buck and play and run circles around him. Eventually, she was weaned and went out with the other cows, but she'd still come running when he would sing, "Karina, Karina," like the song. When Karina weighed about 900 pounds, Terry was down by the barn. Unbeknownst to Terry, Karina came into heat. The problem was, she didn't want the bull. She wanted Terry. He also didn't know that a cow in heat will jump other cattle. Karina snuck up behind Terry. We yelled at him to watch out. He turned around, and there was Karina, all 900 pounds of her, rearing on top of him. She squished him against the corral fence and banged him up a little, but he was all right. I think Karina was terribly disappointed he didn't react to her advances the way she wanted him to. Terry loved her anyway and named Karina as one of his pets to be in the pet trust he set up. I think the thing he liked most about the ranch was that there was no limit to the animals he could rescue, and he rescued a lot. Terry was also an avid reader. He particularly liked Ross Thomas. He was able to option one of his books and wrote a screenplay based on it. Screenplay is a tough game, and he wasn't able to sell it. After Audie died, he stayed around the movie business for several years. He did some stunt work, falling horses, etc., until his best friend was killed on a stunt on Comes a Horseman. He was supposed to do a drag from a horse as the horse ran through a gate. He did it once, and the director liked it, but Terry's friend, I think his name was Jimmy Shepard, wanted to try it again, but this time he hit his head on the gate post and broke his neck. That was the end of Terry's stunt working days. He wasn't afraid, it was just that it reminded him of his friend. So he started working on film editing. He was lucky enough to get on Steven Spielberg's Jaws. Terry really liked it. He said the studio heads didn't think the movie was going to amount to anything, but Terry said seeing Spielberg edit the film, he saw how the editing turned into a hit. But movie work wasn't a dependable source of income, so when he and Susan married, he took a job editing for a publisher. It turned out Terry was exceptionally good at editing, so he made a career out of it. Even after he moved up here, he continued to do editing for magazines, etc., for a few years. The other thing that he liked to do was watch movies, especially as his health failed. He'd sit with his dogs and watch movies and TV stories. He liked Law and Order. He didn't just watch the show, he liked to critique it too, and the way it was shot and edited, etc. That's another reason we got along. When I came home from whatever I was doing, he loved to talk to me about technical aspects of film and TV shows. Having been an entertainment attorney and also a producer on a couple of very low-budget films, such as Hell Comes to Frogtown, which went straight to video, I was generally interested about what he had to say and could ask the right kinds of questions. He also did some of the voiceovers on the biography Audie Murphy. He did not want to be in the credits. I think he was involved in some editing too, but I'm not positive about that. Terry was also a very good guitarist as a teenager and young adult. He and his good friend Phil had a band and played in bars, etc. They also wrote quite a few songs that Terry got some royalties for, but I don't know what the names of the songs were. He had a guitar and used to play some. When he was very ill, he had to get a caregiver to come regularly. It turned out that Jack, the caregiver, also played guitar in a group. Terry loved talking guitars and songs with Jack. All in all, it was obvious to me that he was a lot like his father. He loved animals and creative endeavors. I don't think Audie cared for crowds. He was always low-keyed and reclusive, except when he had to promote a movie. Terry was also low-keyed and avoided attention to the extreme. He loved living in Shingletown because nobody knew who he was, and if they found out, nobody cared. A far cry from the LA area. It gave him more freedom than he ever had. He would come to the supermarket and the deli where he'd joke around with the people who worked there. Everyone was happy to see Mr. Murphy, for the nice guy that he was. Terry suffered from depression most of his life. He once told me that when his dad was killed, he fell into a deep hole that he was never able to crawl out of. As long as I knew him, he went to counseling and saw psychologists. He always took his meds for his depression. He fought it, but the only thing that really helped him was his pets. He really felt great whenever he was able to help an animal. About the only time he ever smiled and laughed was when his pets and Karina were playing. One time he found a badly injured buck that someone had shot. It was in the creek and very cold. Also, it was very wild. Terry was determined to help it. I was dubious. It had a big set of antlers and was on the fight. Terry carefully approached it with a blanket, speaking softly and reassuring, but the buck wasn't buying it. Suddenly the buck attacked. Terry couldn't get away, so he grabbed the buck's horns. There he was, in the creek, hanging onto those horns for dear life. But being injured, the buck collapsed. Terry dropped the horns and ran. He conceded he couldn't do anything more to help it, so we left Alfalfa and left it alone. Unfortunately, when we checked back the next day, the buck had died. Terry was very upset and raged against hunters from then on. He said if he sees anybody on our property hunting, he was going to shoot them. During hunting season, he always had a gun ready. I told him I thought it was a good idea to scare them off, but please don't really shoot anybody. He assured me he wouldn't, unless they were shooting at an animal. There was one animal he didn't like, rattlesnakes. When we found one in the yard, Terry attacked it with a shovel, saying, you're not going to bite one of my dogs," and chopped it to pieces. Larry Ann said she didn't think Terry would mind if we mentioned his depression. He was very open about it, and Audie always fought depression too. He wasn't embarrassed about it, just frustrated that he couldn't control it. After Terry passed, I talked to his old friend Phil, who told me Terry was much happier living on the ranch with us and the animals than Paul had ever seen him, and they were childhood friends. Terry's depression problems was the main reason he was so reclusive and didn't go to Audie Murphy functions. It always triggered a bout of depression. I should also say that Terry loved cats too. He rescued several over the years. He would have loved to have taken care of them here too, but our dogs made it impossible. I think they had like 11 or 12 dogs.
11 of them,
Yeah.
yes.
Also, there are a lot of predators that kill cats. When we were in LA, Terry had a cat that had renal failure. He had to give it fluids and subcutaneous injections. He was totally dedicated to that cat and didn't come over to work at the newsletter. Despite all he did, the cat passed away in his arms, and he grieved for a long time. Another thing Terry loved was my iris garden right outside the living room window. It's about 20 by 30 feet, and I have around 60 different colored irises in it. Terry used to love to sit on the porch and admire them and watch the birds. We fed the tweets every day, so we had lots of birds hanging around. He said he thought the irises looked like a painting. Speaking of birds, we had a pair of house wrens build a nest right in our kitchen window. Terry would get up and tiptoe out to check on the eggs. He was so excited when they hatched and watched avidly as the chicks grew up and fledged. He missed them, but was sure they must be hanging around, but we couldn't tell one from the other. My mother-in-law, who will turn 101 in 4 weeks and lives next door in her own house trailer until 3 or 4 years ago, once told me of all the men she's known in her life, Terry was the only true gentleman she ever met. Of course, I had to tell Terry Averill's opinion of him, and it meant a lot to him. When Terry started having serious health problems, he was extremely concerned about his pets. I love them too and want to care for them, but they cost about $1,000 a month to care for. We have a lot of dogs that have health problems. For instance, there's a sweet little chickadee named Bella. The people who had her didn't have much money. When Bella started crying a lot and peeing constantly, I told them she needed to see the vet. The owner said, "I think she has cancer and is going to die anyway, and I don't want to spend the money." Terry was very upset. He said, "Just take her to the vet and I'll pay for it." Terry wasn't driving at the time, so I did. It turned out Bella had a huge bladder stone that had to be removed or she was going to die. The surgery was $1,200. Terry didn't hesitate. He immediately said he'd pay for it. But he said he wanted them to give him the dog. Bella loved Terry and was always with him, sleeping together too. Bella is sleeping on my lap as I write this. We have dogs with arthritis, hip problems, etc. that require daily pain pills. Terry knew that I don't have the income to care for them all by myself, so he wrote a will setting up the Terry Michael Murphy Pet Trust, into which the royalties he gets from Audie's movies, which isn't much, about $3,000 a year. But he knew it would help a lot. Eventually, when all the pets have passed, the income is to go to a local animal rescue organization. Melissa and Jackie do have shirts and magnets for the foundation if you're interested. Terry was completely non-materialistic and had nothing. He gave his car away to a lady who needed it more than he did. He just didn't care about things. He spent his whole Social Security check mostly on pets. For instance, when the neighbor's dog got bit by a rattlesnake, he immediately stepped up and paid for the vet treatment, which was over $1,000. He was an amazing person. Another thing about Terry, he was kind to people too. There is a Mexican family who have a rock business and have been collecting rock on the ranch for several years. They are the nicest family you can imagine. The kids are all American citizens. The mother had dreamer status, but the father was too afraid to apply. Even though he has been here over 30 years, pays his taxes, and is a productive member of society, he was considered illegal. The kids were terrified, and so Terry felt he had to do something. So he got the family together and told them that if the parents got separated or deported, we would take in all 6 kids. Needless to say, it made the whole family feel better because the parents knew their kids would be taken care of, and the kids felt a whole lot safer. The boy loved Terry. They would come over and spend hours talking to him about problems at school, girl problems, and everything else. They were so comfortable with him. They were devastated when he passed away. But they are older, and Terry really helped them get through a very traumatic time in their lives. As you can see, there is a lot to say about Terry. He never thought of himself as anybody special, and he never talked about the kind of things he did. One more thing. We have a pet cemetery where several of his dogs are buried, including Gossett, his very favorite dog. A week or so before he died, Terry said he wanted to be cremated and his ashes sprinkled on his dogs' graves, especially on Gossett's. He made me promise and reminded me every day. I had Terry cremated, and am waiting for a day his ranch friends can all be there to scatter his ashes. This is what Terry's caregiver had written to me. Of all the many subjects that Terry and I frequently spoke about, our most memorable conversations were about our mutual passion for music. Terry was very well versed in all areas of music, whether it be the history of the blues or playing the blues, or rockabilly and classic rock. I look back fondly on our friendship and am reminded of Terry's incredible ability to make you feel very appreciated and important. He had a very real affection for people that came through in a way he treated me and others. Regardless of whatever other challenges Terry may have been facing at any given time, he always seemed to be more interested in how I was doing. I will always remember Terry as a very caring person who was passionate about music and classic movies, and someone who cared very deeply for others and would go out of his way to help. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to remember and honor my friend Terry. He will be missed. I'd like to end this with a very special tribute to Terry and to all animal lovers. It's called Rainbow Bridge, and the author is unknown. I can get through this. Just this side of heaven is a place called Rainbow Bridge. When an animal dies that has been especially close to someone here, your pet goes to Rainbow Bridge. There are meadows and hills for all our special friends so they can run and play together. There's plenty of food, water, and sunshine, and friends are warm and comfortable. All the animals who have been ill and old are restored to health and strength. Those who were hurt are made better and strong again, like we remember them before they go to heaven. They are happy and content, except for one small thing. They each miss someone very special to them who has been left behind. They all run and play together, but the day comes when one suddenly stops and looks into the distance. His bright eyes are shining, his body shakes. Suddenly he begins to run from the herd, rushing over the grass, his legs carrying him faster and faster. And when you and your special friend finally meet, you cuddle in a happy hug, never to be apart again. You and your pet are in tears. Your hands again cuddle his head, and you look again into his trusting eyes, so long gone from life, but never absent from your heart. And then you cross the rainbow bridge together. Okay. Now, the second part of this presentation is some of the actors that I've met at film festivals. And I'd like to start out by telling you I started watching movies when I was about 13 and a half. And my mom used to work at a radio and television sales shop, and I'd get passes to the theater. I'd take my lunch, I'd buy a Necco wafers, and I'd sit down there for the movies, the double features, the cartoons, the whole bit. So when I saw Audie come on, that was the first time I had seen him in The Kid from Texas. Naturally, I fell in love with him. So I get back to my mom's place of business, and I said, "Who's Audie Murray?" She said, "His name's Murphy." And from then on, I started buying movie magazines and newspaper clippings, anything I could find. And I did start a scrapbook, which I've now gave to Melissa. And Terry also got that scrapbook. When I first wrote the book, I told him that I had this scrapbook, and he said, "You know, there's a lot of things I don't know about my dad." And I said, "Well, I've got this scrapbook." I said, "You want me to send it to you?" And he said, "Sure." So I did. I mailed it to Terry. He went through it, and he saw a lot of stuff in there that he didn't know about his dad. So that was how I got started with Audie. And my collection is over 70 years old, so it's been around a while. So what I'm going to do now, they do this flip this, right? Thank you. These are letters and pictures that I've accumulated over the years. My first letter was from Billy Murphy. That's right here in front of the what was the Holiday Inn back in the day. And she sent me a letter, which you can't read, but I will read it to you. It said, "My dearest Sue, just a few words to let you know how much I appreciate everything you have done for me. I love you and think of you as a sister, not just a friend. I feel so blessed having you as my best friend. I thank you for listening to my problems and for encouraging me so much, for your help and your kind words. I will always be grateful. I'm glad that you and your mom had a good time on your trip. Be sure to send me some pictures. Hope your book signing goes well, or should I say good. Tell Dave," it's my husband, hello, and I'll talk to you later. Love you, Billy." Now, from now on, it's going to be actors that I've met in no particular order. It's just random. This is John Alderson. This was from the Williamsburg Film Festival, March 22nd, 2004. John and I used to email each other. He says, "An absolute delight to have met you. I do hope it will be our good fortune to meet again soon. I invited him to attend AM Days, but unfortunately he never made it as he had health issues and had some wonderful emails back and forth until his death. A wonderful and great man." And there we are at the Williamsburg Film Festival. This is Audie with Bud Bediger. I don't have a picture of Bud and myself, but I wrote him a letter, and this is back in April of 1995. He says, "Dear Miss Gossett, you caught me just in time as we are off to Spain. You have my permission to use anything you wish from A Time for Dying. I don't believe you will have any trouble from the young man who thinks he owns the rights, Richard Lapp. He was dreadful in the film and far worse personally. I simply haven't had the time or the desire to spank him legally. 3 weeks ago, I sent you a short note stating that following your call, I nearly spent all of the next day going through albums and numerous boxes in our garage to find photographs of Audie. To my astonishment, I discovered I had only one remaining, which is this one, which I am now mailing to you. It is obvious why I did not mail this before. It is obvious why I didn't mail it before. Over these many years, I have sent hundreds of photographs to Audie Murphy fans all over the world, and still I'm waiting for my first thank you. But today's lack of manners doesn't upset me half as much as my inability to help you. When I didn't hear from you again, I tried to call, but information advised me that your telephone was not listed at the owner's request. I am busier than I have ever been in my whole career, as we leave for Spain in 3 days, and I am furious that I have wasted all of this time and still am unable to contribute to your very deserving project. I'm sure you must realize that I wish you the very best of luck. Sincerely, Bud Bagger. And I did talk to Bud on the phone, by the way.
The hat that he's wearing, Sue, the hat that he's wearing is right there. That's the same hat
Oh,
in the picture.
okay.
Oh, wow.
John Saxon. This was taken, this letter is from April 18th, 1997. Dear Sue Gossett, thank you for the loan of the Audie Murphy photos. It was very kind of you. I am returning them as I have negatives made for future such shows as we were in Knoxville. Are there any more missing? I left mixing things I bought with others I had loaned. I found the festival particularly stimulating. At the banquet, when the whole world was what folks call B-Western cereals, once spoken of with such vivid meaning. I read the portions of your book involving Posse from Hell while I was there. Since I've been back, I've been tearing things down, renovation, and I haven't been able to read further, but I will. Thanks again, John Saxon. I've met him twice. So, nice guy.
Yeah, good job.
We tried to get him here, but he didn't. His wife kept saying that they wanted to be paid. Didn't work out at all.
He's good.
Okay. Okay, this is, of course, the Red Badge of Courage, Audie, and Danny Foster. That was his stage name. He says, "Hi, Sue. I'm sorry I'm late in my letter to you. You know I like my name better than Dan Foster, but I had no choice. Thank you so much for the completed printout about some of my movies. The enclosed photo is the same that is at the Ramada Express Museum in Laughlin, Nevada. It's the only one I have of Audie and myself. I'm happy to have made a copy for you, and it's yours to keep. If your new book is available, I'd be happy to buy one. I'm delighted your Texas trip and Audie's special was a fine success. I'm sure someday, somehow, we will meet. By the way, yes, I am Italian, so you are my Pisano." His real name is Dante Ferrante. But I asked him, I said, "Are you Italian?" He said, "Yes, I am." So here's another one. To Sue, thank you for your nice letter. I met Audie at MGM Studios many years ago when I was under contract to the studio. One day, I went to the commissary for lunch. I saw this fellow by himself at a table. I asked if I could sit there, and he said, "Sure." I didn't know who he was, and of course, he was Audie. We talked a long time and became good friends. I never talked to him about his military career, and I know he didn't like to talk about it. He was working in the Red Badge of Courage, and I was working in Singing in the Rain, just a bit part, but I enjoyed it. One day, Audie asked me if I would help him with rehearsals of his movie. I said, sure. A few days later, we were riding together in a studio car to the location site. As we were driving along Ventura Boulevard, we saw a man lying along the curb. The driver kept going. Audie stopped him and had him back up, saying, "We have to help this man." Audie got out of the car, propped the man up, and stayed with him until help came along. This took time, and we were late for rehearsal, but Audie didn't care. This incident made me proud to know a man that really cared for someone in need. All this happened over 55 years ago, but it's still vivid in my mind. Eventually, I introduced Audie to Donna Martell, and we double dated. I'm doing this letter in a hurry. We just got home from a trip, and I wanted to respond to your letter. Good luck on your tribute to Audie in Texas. Incidentally, in the War Museum at the Ramada Express Casino in Laughlin, Nevada, they have a picture of me and Audie, picture displayed. Sincerely, Danny Foster. Just an additional note. My real name is Dante Ferrante. When I was signed to a contract at RKO before MGM, they changed my name to Dan Foster. Said Dante Ferrante sounded too poetic and made up. So go figure. Okay. I wish I had met Dante, but never did. Never met. Greg Palmer. We became very good friends over the years. He says, Dear Sue, this is July 3rd, 2006. As always, it was great talking to you and Dave the other night. Enclosed is the photo of Audie and me, as well as 3 other photographs of me from the good old days. I'll call you next week so we can chat again. And then he says, I'm sorry I'm late in getting the enclosed copies, this is in 2009, of the photos Audie signed to me, off to you. I thought they turned out great after all these years on my den wall. Hi to Dave. Now, these are actually, well, there's Greg and I. And these are copies that Greg sent to me. Those are actual autographs of Audie to Greg. It says, hi pal, best of luck. And he called him Palmer because his name was Palmer Lee at the time. So those are actual signed pictures of Audie and Greg. My dear friend, Paul Attorney, whom I met back in '98, I went up to Chicago to meet him specifically because I had never met him before, and we stayed friends until he died. He says, Dear Sue, thanks for the pictures, they are great. It sure was nice meeting you and your friends in Chicago. Too bad we didn't have more time. I got a call from Donna Martell. We're going to get together for coffee. Hope to see you in June. Love, Paul Paterni. There we are in Chicago. That's Donna Martell. We also became very dear friends. She's still alive, 97. And Donna dated Audie between Wanda Hendricks and Pam. They went on a double date together, she told me. And Audie wanted to keep dating her, but she said no. She said, you're getting married, and that ended that. Nice gal. Very petite, as you can see. But such a sweet person, she really is. Oh, and another letter he wrote in 2002. He said, sorry I haven't written sooner, but between the cruise, the wedding, his daughter, in Vegas, and Christmas preparations, it's been a busy time. Finally, last night, I read your book from cover to cover. I was up until 3 a.m. What a great book. You did a masterful job. I truly enjoyed it all. The interviews, the posters, all of it. Your publisher did a great job with the cover, so colorful. Thank you so much for my autographed copy. I love it. Wishing you and Dave, your mom, and all the family a joyous Christmas and a Happy New Year. Love, Paul. I'm missing Morgan Woodward. That picture's from Cool Hand Luke. He never says a word in that movie. All he does is guard the prisoners in the chain gang. He writes on there, to Sue, remember, I'm keeping my eye on you. And his letter to me was, thanks very much for the photo, very kind of you, Morgan. Here we are. This is from Richard Castle, who played Novak in To Hell and Back. I never met him, but Paul put me with him, and he writes me a letter. It says, this is November 18th, 1998. Dear Sue, thank you so much for sending me the book you wrote about Audie. I read it from cover to cover upon receipt and was very impressed. To my knowledge, Paul and myself are the only warriors remaining. I was very fond of Audie. 1,000 actors auditioned for the role I played in the movie, and Audie selected me of all of them. You can imagine how I felt and how grateful I became. Wherever in God's heaven Audie is, I hope he is safe and sound. I wish you the very best and thank you for your kindness. Warmly and sincerely, Richard Castle. Peter Breck. This is from 1998. Sue, I was really meeting you and seeing you after all the communication we, the Audie Murphy Foundation, and I have had through the mails for the last few years. Thanks so much for letting me share some of the copies of the work I participated in with Audie. He was a wonderful person who shall remain in my memory forever. My best to you always, and Billy, Peter Breck. Nice guy. Oh, nice. Jan Merlin, another good friend. This is September 28, 1997. Just a quick note to let you know, excuse me, that Terry's meeting with Jan Merlin went very well. This is from Larry Ann. Your book was a big hit with both of them, not just because it was a great book, and they both appreciated your gesture, but also because they were able to use it to answer a question that had been bugging Jan for years. The name of the Whispering Smith episode he appeared in. They looked in your book, and there it was, The Blind Gun. It really made Terry's day. So this is from Jan, September 27, 1997. Terry Murphy was kind enough to bring your book to me when we met yesterday, and I was considerably impressed with the great job you've done. The entire concept was a joy to read and look at, and I particularly liked the photo of Audie on the back cover, the perfect place to have it after some detailed study of his picture career, and certainly where Audie himself might have finally agreed to allow it. Imagine my delight to have a mystery solved for me. I've been unable to find any of the Whispering Smith episodes and was even unable to supply the title of the one I did. And in your book, you revealed that it was The Blind Gun, and that was the first show of the series. It may help me track it down at last. I've never seen it and would like to have for my library. I'm afraid I have very, very few mementos of those last years and was at a loss to know how to be helpful in my interview with Terry. I did have a couple of photos from Hellbent for Leather, which I gave him. I'm sending you a copy of one as well. Terry brought copies of the theater cards from the picture for me to keep, and we managed to have a genial hour or more talking about his father and what those years in films were like. You'll be amused to know it wasn't our first meeting. When Terry was quite young, his father introduced me to him at the studio during one of the boys' visits, and of course, he's quite different today. Taller, better looking, and one of the nicest guys I've ever met. His dad would be so proud of him. With thanks for your kindness, Jan Merlin. Okay, I have no picture, but this is from Marjorie Stapp. She was in, what was it? Battle at Bloody Grip. Battle Bloody, there, I'm sorry.
Beach.
What's the name of the movie?
Battle at Bloody Beach.
Bloody Beach, okay. Anyway, I wrote to her and she says, Dear Sue, I want to thank you for sending me the picture of Audie Murphy and me. It was most thoughtful and kind. Also, I'm enjoying the Audie Murphy book you sent. Thanks again, Marjorie Stapp. And she said, in a phone conversation with her, November 6, 1998, she says, they first met on the set. He was a charming gentleman. Audie helped a woman climb down the steep steps and helped a little boy who spilled food. He was soft-spoken and gentle. Never knew him off the set, though. Okay, this is a copy of a letter that Guy Rocco wrote to me. I don't remember how I got his letter. Maybe I sent him a book or something. But he knew Audie, and he said that, I think they were in the war together. So he sent me a copy of a letter that Audie had written to him, and it was that Box 251, Farmersville, Texas, dated December the 26th, 1945. Guy was buying my book and sent me to this, and they were friends for almost 58 years. He writes, "Dear Rock," this is Audie writing to Rock, "a few lines to answer to your letter on November 16th. I was really very glad to hear from you. I had often wondered what had become of you. I often think about those little patrols we used to take together. Also, how old ugly Finnegan used to cuss and say he was crazy for going. But he always went. I still have the sniper's rifle we got that day from the quarry. Have been offered a couple of $100 for it, but naturally I wouldn't sell it. Rock, I sort of miss the old days and the old guys, but naturally there aren't many of the old guys left. I guess Alex is about the oldest one left back in the company, and he's first sergeant now. There is a slight chance that I might return to the service, and if I do, I will request to be sent back over with the outfit. James Cagney has offered me a movie contract, but it does not appeal to me too much. Rock, I hope you settle down and get yourself readjusted to civilian life better than I have. I'm about as restless as Coy Woods in an artillery barrage. Don't know too much to write, Guy. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas. Here's wishing you all the best for the new year. You, pal, Murph. P.S. I'm sending you a picture, Rock. It was one I had made in my first store-bought clothes." So those are all the letters I have. What I have now are just photographs of some of the actors that I've met and over the years. That's Jan and me. Jan wasn't very tall, as you can tell. That's the letter from Marjorie. And that's the letter that Audie wrote to Rock. Here's Terry Moore. She was here a couple of years ago. I asked her to come when I saw her in a film festival. And then we were together. That's Robert Easton. He was in Red Badge of Courage with Audie. It says, "With love to Sue from Robert Easton. Thanks for your wonderful book." He also was a coach. People from Hollywood, if they needed an accent, he would tell them how to speak in a foreign language or a Southern accent or New York accent. He would coach them on that. And then we are together. He's tall. Ron Masak, he was in Time for Dying. He played the bartender in the movie. A couple of times I thought about Ron and wanted to come here, but he had passed away and I didn't know that. James Lydon, he was in Bad Boy, one of the bad boys. Very nice very nice man. I had my wrist hidden because I had a broken wrist at the time. Michael Dante, of course, y'all know him. Robert Pine, I met him, but I never got a picture with him. He was in Gunpoint with Audie. Tommy Cook, he was in Bad Boy and also Night Passage. And we were on a panel together in Lone Pine, California, and when the panel was finished, he said that I did a nice job. He was there with his granddaughter. William Schaller, he was also in Red Badge of Courage, but he told me he didn't remember making it. Oh, Jack. Jack again. We met him, golly, a long time ago. Billy, Nadine, Feller Goff, myself, were at Memphis, and he was there at a film festival with a bunch of other people. And we all had, sitting at a table, we were all just talking about things. And finally, we got an interview with him, which is in my now showing book. And he and Audie had the same bookie, he told me. They like the horses.
Yeah.
Heck of a nice guy. This was taken, could have been at the Cowboy Hall of Fame in Oklahoma City. David Macklin, met him at Asheville. He was in
Gun-
Gunpoint.
yeah.
And there he is kind of showing off. I
You don't look quite as happy in that second one, so that's who comes around.
didn't look too scared. That's Audrey Dalton. She's an English actress, and she was in one of the Whispering Smith episodes. And Brett Halsey, he was here a couple of years ago to help back. That's Mark Lawrence. He is an old-time heavy movie actor, and I met him in Knoxville, I believe, and he was also in a Whispering Smith episode. Nice guy, even though he played horrible characters. That's Clue Ruliger. He was in a Whispering Smith episode. He was just kind of laid back. And my buddy Neil Summers, who wrote the foreword for my first book, he was a great help to me, and he's living up in Kanab, Utah now. He's not in really good health. His birthday is the same as my great-granddaughter, so I always send him a birthday card every year. I get a Christmas card from him every year. That was our first meeting down in Williamsburg, and that's later on, several years later. Kathleen Crowley was in Showdown, and a very sweet lady. Lori Nelson, she was a peach. She was a wonderful lady. I asked her one time, I said, was Audie a good kisser? And she said, oh, yeah. I had to ask her. Very sweet. Well, while she was signing some of my lobby cards, there was a real pest that used to come up and bother the actors. And he came up and wanted her to sign something for him. And she very nicely said, if you wait a few minutes, I'll be with you. I just want to finish doing suits. Yeah, she was a sweetheart. Gail Storm, another lovely lady. Met her out in California at one of the film festivals out there. And my dear friend Rue Lee, she says, dear Sue, how nice to have you as a friend. And we're trying to get her here. I don't know if we ever will succeed. She loved her hats. She was a very flamboyant dresser.
Yeah, so almost.
She always wore high heels too, even into her 80s. Sean McClory was in Guns of Fort Petticoat. Very nice Irish actor. I think Chicago, I'm not positive. I went to so many film festivals, I don't remember where I was. Warren Stevens, met him down at the Memphis Film Festival at the Hollywood Casino. And John Agar was in
Joe Butterfly.
Joe Butterfly.
Oh, he's in front of the camera.
Very nice gentleman. Joe Campanella. He was in The Man, the TV show The Man. Very nice man. Very, very nice. And of course, my friend Ben Cooper. Loved him to death. He was here 3 times. He and his wife Pamela. James Best made 5 movies with Audie, and we became friends over the years. I met him back in the late 90s.
At the museum, but a lot of money.
Wright King, he was in the Castle Long Shadow. He didn't remember making that movie either. I think they make so many movies that when they have a bit part, they forget. You know, he had no memory of making that movie at all. Ann Robinson, she was in The Cimarron Kid. She had just one line. But I got to meet, that's in Columbus a long, long time ago. Don Collier, across from High Chaparral. He had a one line in that one movie that Audie was in. Was it, let's see.
7 Ways, wasn't it? 7 Ways.
Yeah, 7 Ways, yeah. And all he did was hold his horse when he came in, so he really didn't know Audie very well. But there we are anyway. Bobby Hoy, he was a good friend of Audie's. They did a lot of stunt work together, did a lot of work together on different things. And that's Bobby, myself, and Neil Summers. He always called him Murph. Every time he'd mention it, Murph did this or Murph did that. And Suzanne Lloyd, she was in 7 Ways from Sundown. Got to meet her, and nice gal. That's the end of the program, folks.
I stuck that in there.
My son did that for my birthday. He gave his best friend used to do cropping like that. He gave him a picture. I used to be a fashion model back in the day, and that was one of my outfits I wore, and one of my poses, and he just posted on that picture. So, I hope you enjoyed the program.